Welcome to another virtual stage of an episode. And today we have the most beautiful Katharina Lova, and I'm not pronouncing that in the most authentic, beautiful, elegant way that she will say it. So I might even let her say that when she comes in. But Katharina is a holistic coach for women, and she helps them reclaim the power of the womb space, which is something that I have been feeling this huge pull for lately. So it's just incredible that she has come in and offered her time and energy to speak to this. So she also speaks about the menstrual cycle and the divine feminine way, particularly as I guess we're going through a time where there's a lot of chaos, and then we're wondering, what power we're meant to be connecting to. So I am going to actually let Katharina give an introduction to all of the work she does and what has led her to this path in particular, because I think for some people, when they hear the divine feminine or menstrual cycles, they think it's probably just women. But as I'm aware, it's like the world in general, it's made up of masculine and feminine. So come on in, beauty, and share your beautiful accent and your story with us.
Hi, oh my God, I'm so happy and so honored to be here and talking to you, Lauren. Oh, and you pronounced my name perfectly fine. It is a tricky one. Like really German pronounced, it would sound Katharina Löwer. But you made a perfectly beautiful job.
Thank you. Yes.
So yeah, I'm gonna share a little bit about my my work, and how I got where I am. So I am a studied psychologist and trauma-informed systemic coach.
Wow.
And I've always, for the past 10 years, I've always worked with women. It was always very much what I was naturally drawn to. And I started doing, I worked for the government in Germany, and I did coachings, psychosocial coachings and therapy. But what I came to realize very quickly was that it's very much still this 80s feminism is very much still alive. That is like smashing the patriarchy and, like empowering women, yes, but in a very masculine way. And
so true.
And not really what I say when I talk about patriarchy is not, I'm not talking about men here, right? I'm talking about a system that is oppressing equally women and men. It's not about men versus women at all. It's about very much a system that forces us to go, and do, and produce and be active all the time. But what we forget is the feminine way, the receptivity, the rest, the downward energy, like the letting go. And very much like this natural menstruation that we let go, really release, and then we come back and do again. Yeah. And I felt so constrained in my work after a few years, feeling like I'm forced to coach women to function in a dysfunctional system.
You'd be getting nowhere, really. Like you give them the wisdom, and they're so thirsty for the tools, but I can imagine they just come back to you and it's like coming back at square one because they're really unable to practically apply any of it, because it's like this, it's an idea and it's not a way. Like you say, the divine feminine way, it's a way of being and not of doing. So it's like, I know that I've been stuck in that cycle as well, and still get stuck in those ruts of like, I do love achieving, and I do love doing things, but then remembering as well, like with the previous chat that I just did with someone, it was like the hormone cycles we can achieve in the times that we rest. So that's something that's psychologically harder for me to get over, and I'm sure that viewers and listeners can probably relate, and probably most of your clients are bringing up with you anyway.
Yes, yes, very much, because we're so conditioned as well to always give and do more, and also define our self-worth by the things we achieve. And that takes away, like you said, we all naturally, we want to create, we want to do things, we want to get out and birth our projects or whatever into this world.
Yeah.
But if everything depends on that, it just takes away the natural joy and excitement and pleasure of that.
Right.
Because everything depends on us delivering certain things.
Yeah.
And also, when we forget to go back into a receptive state and rest, how are we going to see our manifestations work, right? Because we're already at the next project or at the next idea, or yeah, so.
Wow. And when you think of it like on an actual physiological level, I love that you use the word receptive, and, it brings in receiving and resting. And, it doesn't always just mean like resting, like I'm here lying on my couch, or I'm resting, I'm doing nothing. It can be actually just drawing on the yin qualities or the more passive qualities where we're allowing for things to happen, because we all know that when we're in our parasympathetic nervous system, or our rest, receive, and digest system, that is when the body heals, like physiologically, not just
Yes.
woo-woo language. So if we're always in a state of like, oh, I've got to get things done, like you said, the next thing, it's like your body is just getting so burnt out. And, the words adrenal fatigue are probably very familiar to you, and burnout, and all of that kind of stuff. When you grew up, Katharina, did you have parents who showed you how to be both in your masculine and your feminine quite well? Because you have such an elegance about you when I see you, and have very briefly met you, and I just wonder if that has been a practice, or whether it's something that you were just kind of born into and have been doing your whole life.
No, unfortunately, I wasn't born into it, or maybe I have to be grateful, because I think it was quite the opposite, and that actually pushed me onto this way of healing myself. And so I made this my calling, right, and my profession, to share this wisdom and knowledge I gathered throughout the years. So now I grew up very much in a family that neglected cyclical being, that neglected menstruality. It wasn't talked about, it wasn't shared about, there was no space. We had to function very much all the time, like my grandmother did. She was a generation of war survivors, right? So there was no real awareness for that. It was pushing and going, and my mother as well. And so that was how I grew up. And then at one point I was burned out. I was just tired. I was getting sick all the time. Like once a month I would have a cold, and I felt, oh my God, this can't be it. I'm not going to continue like this for the next 60 years of my life.
No.
There has to be a different way. And that led me down this path. Yes.
And I can see here as well, that I didn't include in the little introduction that I did for you, but your healing journey has gone from India to Thailand to Greece to Turkey. Like, where was this catalyst point where you realized it has to change? Like, there has to be a different way. And what action did you take towards that step to like who you are today?
Well, I was working at that time as a psychologist, and I loved my job. Like, I really loved helping people and being in contact with them and really holding space for these transformations to occur. But I felt so confined by this 9 to 5 life, by living in the city, and I felt like I was really at one point, I was sitting there and feeling like this could be my life for the next 60 years. And I just felt dead inside. I was like, oh my God, no, no, this can't be it. And I had like this huge urge in me coming up saying like, no way, I'm just gonna put up with this. It feels like I'm dying inside while functioning so well on the outside, and where actually everything is fine. I had a beautiful flat, a loving partner, a great job, good income. And I felt, but I'm not happy. I'm just not happy. And I always, yeah, and then it kickstarted this like, okay, I'm gonna look into different modalities. And I came in touch with Reiki and was just like, it's an energy healing modality. And it was something I remembered. It was insane because I didn't have to learn it.
Yeah,
My body remembered.
totally.
And it was like, oh, felt amazing. And that kick-started everything. And then I was always interested in yoga, but then I felt, no, I'm going to deepen this. And I just, at one point, I just quit.
Yeah.
I was like, if I don't do it now, I'm going to be stuck here. And I knew this. I can, you know, just live with it, but I know there's so much more available to me. So I pushed myself to say like, no, you're going to quit now. You're going to jump. You can always come back. You know, I'm not going to die.
Isn't it such a paradoxical system though? Like, because I feel like, so my background as well was in a job that was helping people like in the paramedic field. And then, people are telling you it's probably the best job you're going to ever have, Katharina. You're doing really good things. We love you. You're so good at what you do. And then it's like, you're not hearing me. I feel dead. Like, I feel like there's ways that I can help people more, which I'm sure you were very, very good at your psychology job and in that role. But at the same time, that can fit into your new role. And it's so amazing that you did take the leap, because if you don't act on that window of opportunity that you had right there, then I can almost guarantee that that would have projected into those next depressing 60 years of your life, that you've just accepted what you have and it's good enough. And
Yes.
for some time a lot of people can think, well, it's pretty good and I've got most things I want. It's like, but you could have like so much more. And I'm not talking money, I mean like your soul just going like, I want to hug the world because of what I'm doing. And like, I'm sure you're challenged like crazy in the work that you do now, and probably in even more challenging ways than the psychology work, because it means you have to do all of the work yourself too. You're not just hired for a position that you were trained for, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's so much like you said, I could really feel these two opportunities, being fairly okay and just accepting my life as it was while slowly dying on the inside, or just taking that big scary leap of faith and just jumping without a security net, but finding that security net actually within myself was the most empowering thing I've ever done.
Oh, I just want to squish you. It's like, it's like a fellow soul sister, or like, I think it, like you even said in the messages, I feel like this is perfect timing and I feel like we're meant to connect for a reason. And I definitely felt that as well, because I haven't reached out to everybody in the world. There's been very random and few people that have actually sent that, direct message to, like, hey, don't know much about you. we should catch up. You should come on my podcast. It's so bizarre. The people that come through, that for me is like, they're the ones who are showing up. They're the ones doing the work. They're the ones who are continuing to value themselves and their story despite the odds. And I'd really like to hear what your journey with self-confidence, self-esteem, and self-worth has been, and like what your practices are around that now.
Yeah, my journey to being self-confident was quite, it was not an easy one. Let's be really honest about it. I felt, when I was growing up, I always felt like I had to look a certain way or be a certain way or present results to get love, especially growing up with a father who was very distant, very, abandoning. I always felt like I have to have the right grades, or I have to look cute enough, or I have to, whatever it was really, because in the end you can't, it took me years to understand that no matter what I do, I'm never going to be good enough if I feel I don't be I'm not going to be loved for just me. And there was a thing that stuck with me for a long time throughout my teenage years, and I always was very focused around my looks and dieting a lot and exercising, but just never being really content, right? Because I'm not perfect. I'm just human.
Amen. I think that's the line of the episode already. Like, done.
Yeah. And also this competitiveness, right? Also, when I started doing yoga, and you would think, oh my God, yeah, it's a spiritual practice, but it's also, you can push yourself so much, right? Do I look right? Am I going deep enough? Am I doing enough? Is 1 hour a day enough? Shouldn't I be doing 3 hours? You know, like there is no limit to this thing, to this way of thinking. When you feel like you have to prove yourself, it also really bleeds into your spiritual practices as well. So they're not the cure necessarily for these issues. I had to find out that.
Yeah. Is there's like a level of spiritual competitiveness as well, which is just so on the other side of spiritual. It's not funny, but I've been there as well. But it's more so just being with myself, of comparing, oh, I could never be like that, or I better do like, 20 hours in a day. And it's like, I better not sleep, and I better have that practice. And it's like, why? Like, what am I actually, what is the purpose of all of this? And I guess that's probably what you got to as well, is that is yoga. It's finding your purpose. And it might not ever be a yoga posture in your life, but it's actually coming to sit with you and going, I love me, I am enough. And that's when the whole world opens to you. And I'm sure that, I'm not sure if you're still with your partner of back in the day, or whether you have a different partner or friends and family. And I just feel like the space you're in now, that your connections would be so much more rich. And you can speak to that if you'd like, or go into whatever avenue resonates with you.
Yes, so much. And this, once you, like you said, when you reflect on why am I doing this? Do I feel like I have to prove something to myself or to others? Or is it because it's just coming out of myself, my real authentic expression of who I am in this moment? And for me, menstrual cycle awareness, for example, really opened the door to this, saying like, what do I need today? Who am I today? Because I'm not linear. I'm not the same as I was 2 weeks ago. I actually radically change every month, every day. And that was for me the moment when I felt like, oh my God, I can give myself permission. I'm not crazy, I'm not hysterical, I'm not overly emotional, whatever. I don't lack consistency or determination. I am a woman. Oh my God. So simple and so profound, and yet absolutely life-changing.
Isn't it amazing too, with the menstrual cycle, having the shift to see it as something beautiful instead of something that is so limiting or, PMS related or emotional related. It's like, wow, I'm feeling restful. Hey, my body's actually in a state of showing me that it needs rest in this moment, or it's showing me that, like, really drive, go hard, have that masculine energy at certain times of the month. But then to remember, I love that line, is I am not linear. I just love it because that speaks so soul deep for me. And I know a lot of other people do like to have things mapped out in a certain way, and that meets their needs well for their purpose or their life, and that's totally cool. But I consistently like to have variety in my routine and my life, and to have that match in with like the moon cycles, or the menstrual cycle, and just to be able to kind of literally go with the flow in so many more ways than one.
Yeah, and you know what, you said it so beautifully. It is first of all, it is natural. Like, we have the menstrual cycle is really the natural inbuilt spiritual practice for women,
Yeah.
and it's undeniable, right? It is present, it is in our bodies. Our mind is not so much involved, actually, but our body shows us the perfect way. And everything, like, when we can shift our mindset and not saying, oh my God, it's so inconvenient, oh my God, I hate PMS, but when we actually look at, what is this telling me? What is this telling me? Then it is beautiful to transform our lives according to that, because PMS and that rage and that criticism we can experience, and this irritability, right?
Yeah.
It really shows us where our lives are not in sync with our cycle. And the Western world very much expects us to be in, we call it the inner summer, right? So if you have the 4 seasons of the menstrual cycle, the inner spring and inner summer is pre-ovulation and ovulation, when you have the most masculine energy, when you feel like, oh my God, I can conquer the world. And you know what? You can, and go for it, but you can only because afterwards you get into this resting cycle, digesting cycle, and it's naturally enabling you to be creative and birth, but you also have to rest. Otherwise, you burn out. If you're constantly on fire, you burn out, and that's the natural consequence, and what so many women are facing in this world as well.
Definitely. And we all have different constitutions, right? Like, I can just see a little bit of you, but I can see that you've shifted into your feminine quite a lot, with all of the work that you do. But if in our natural constitution we have a lot of internal fire as it is, and I think there's certain things that I believe in with, like, astrology and planetary alignments and stuff. I won't go into that here, but there can be a lot of fiery influence, and so there's that on top of a fiery work. Like, you might be required to be really masculine, or it might be labor intensive, and then there's the fire on top of the fire, and then it might be the fiery time of your period. And no wonder a lot of women experience pain, experience cramping, experience these PMS symptoms. And the lady that will be that was on the episode before, when, like, yours will be released, it's so cool that you brought up the spring and the summer, because that's exactly what she spoke about. And so that makes
Mhm.
so much sense to me, with like the testosterone coming to its
Yes.
peak in the summertime, or in the summer cycle within the month for ladies. And it's just, again, if we can start to work synchronistically with it, we're not going to start to work against it. It's like,
Yeah.
but yeah, I'm also curious how you manage your time of action here, because you could get a lot of energy and then still burn yourself out in those times, right?
Mhm. Yeah, that's a very good point. Because if we plan, let's say we are able to plan our life, our business, our work according to our cycle, right? We would get the most done in this first two seasons, like spring and summer.
Yeah.
But if we can manage to keep a little bit of that super outgoing, super social energy to ourselves, then we will experience a way less painful period and a way less stressful PMS phase, if any. And just to be really, really, really strong on that, PMS and painful periods are not normal. This is
They're not.
not your default. No.
No.
Actually, the menstruation can be such a blissful time of deep spiritual journeying, of shamanic journeying. And in all shamanic traditions, for example, things like sweat lodges or fasting, they were invented for men so they can access the same realms as women can naturally through their menstruation.
Isn't that
Yeah.
amazing? Wow. I'm so curious as to who you have learnt your wisdom through, like who you turn to in this time, because I'm sure a lot of it was intuitive, much like the Reiki. There is this sense of remembering, but as we go through the process of remembering, it's often important for us to find those wise teachers along the way who kind of have the blueprint or the framework, right?
Yes. Well, I have to say that my shamanic journey was quite special because I basically I got, it sounds so weird, but I got chosen by this shaman and he just contacted me and invited me to his place in Crete. And I was so like, he contacted me via Facebook and I was like, who's this old guy just writing me a message? How weird is that? And I
Right.
was like, fuck no, I'm not gonna go to your place in Crete. I mean, thank you, but how creepy is that? And then he actually came visiting me in my dream time. And he was there showing me the way. And the next day I booked my tickets to Crete and I stayed with him for 3 months learning. It was, yeah,
I
pretty
wish
mind-blowing.
if people are listening to the podcast right now, jump onto the YouTube when this actual upload is there, because my face is just like says it all. That is like so epic. I love this. Keep going.
Yeah, so yeah, that was incredible for me. And I had a few of these synchronicities where just, yeah, things just happened and I received them, right? I didn't make it happen. I didn't go and say like, oh, I'm gonna book myself on that training. Because I think, yeah, a lot of this, if you want to really be open and be ready, it will reach you, right? The right resources, the right teachers, the right people, they will reach you when it's time. And that's not necessarily when you think it is time, but when you actually are open to receive, right? And this is why it's so important as well to cultivate that receptivity so that these teachings and these people can enter our lives and enrich our reality. But other than that, and I know that that's quite an unusual experience.
I just want to sit with that for a bit and just go like, yes, that is just so how I roll. And I probably would have been the same as you, like, who is this creepy old dude? But then also have that conflict with feeling like this pull, or then your direction goes there and it's like, why do I feel like I have to do this? And everyone else is going to think I'm crazy, but I trust this. And, for you to have gone and done that, I'm sure you would have had a lot of people like, oh my God, please be saved, blah, 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 blah. And it's like the most incredible transformative experience that, has almost birthed you into what you do, I'm sure.
Yes. Oh my God. When I told my family, they were like, are you crazy or what? You're not going. This is so dangerous. Have you ever talked to this guy? I was like, no, he came in my dream. And they were like, what?
You were so my like soul sister. It's the best. Yes.
But when you meet someone who can enter your dreams and talk to you and bring you into different dimensions and stuff, you don't question anymore, or at least I don't. It's like a reality that's realer than normal reality. It's so hard to describe, but I know everyone out there who has ever experienced something like that will nod their head now and say like, yes, I know what that is. It's like this different reality that you just don't question anymore. You don't doubt it because it's so real.
I think because we understand, and it's not a us is better than anybody, but when people are stuck so much in the body and the world as 3D, as this is all there is, as opposed to there's a point where we are all one. We are all one drop in the ocean, and we are all like the ocean and that drop. And it's that sort of thing of this complete feeling of unity and oneness. And I think that's what any spiritual teaching kind of alludes back to, whether you're in religion or whether you're in spirituality or whatever you want to call it. I feel like all pathways end up leading back to this point where it's like a nothingness but an everythingness, and it's so beautiful to have experienced that, I guess. And so like yeah, I'm sure that the people that don't understand it, it can feel very frightening or very, I guess they probably don't share the same language that you and I might have in a conversation, and it can feel a little bit like disheartening at times, or it can challenge you to doubt yourself. But yeah, I feel like you've probably moved through all that, and you're very confident in yourself and what you have experienced and what you offer.
Yes. Yeah, there's so many different paths, right? Like you said, they're different. We say like they're different pointers to the moon, right? But they all point at something, or at the same thing rather. And it's not one way isn't better than the other. And it's not to say like, oh, I'm so special. It's not about this, right? It's like your life's journey will look different. Everyone's life journey will look different. And for me, like this new time we're moving in is not about, oh, I know better, I'm your teacher, I'm your guru. I feel like, no, I've traveled a path and I can show you a few things, but you are your own healer, right? And all I want to do is to empower you to get to your own healing resources within yourself, because it's all there, and all it takes is someone maybe to show you the way. But in the end, it's all you going that way, and it's all you remembering who the fuck you really are, right? I mean,
No, I
you are
love
pure
it.
magic.
Totally. It's like, and this is the cool thing, is like when I see people like you're the ones who I just go, you're the right teacher, in my opinion, even though I don't like to say right or wrong or good or bad and all of that kind of stuff. But I think you're a teacher who I know you would take people on, and you wouldn't want to have them ongoing. It's like, until you remember your own strength, until you remember your own worth, your own beauty, then I will set you free and you'll be able to lead that path for other people. Because it's like we're all these little buds that just are able to connect with so many different people. And if we can guide heaps of people along the way, we can't do it all ourselves. Like, it's crazy to think that you'd want everyone to be on your team. It's like, no, I'll guide the right people at the right time with the information that you've gone through, because we don't teach what we haven't embodied or learned ourselves. And then they'll be able to draw in the right people to just continue this little domino effect along the way, along this thing called life, and like hopefully bringing more conscious children into the world, you know?
Yes, so much. And I think also as teachers, it is even a responsibility to be really clear. Like, I don't want you to stick around with me for years. Not at all. That's not the goal. My goal is not to have clients that come over and over again, but actually to set them out on their own journey, equipped with more tools or more self-confidence or more whatever they really needed in that moment.
Yeah.
This is the goal, and to also really, really emphasize that self-responsibility of healing. And no matter if it's healing your womb or healing from a chronic illness or whatever, it's you who heals that within yourself, right? No prescription can do it for you. You can maybe cure a little bit, but the deep roots is always your responsibility and your ability as well, right? And it's the most empowering journey to say, like, I have healed myself.
Yeah.
And yes, I took on the teachings and I got help as much as I needed, but the real healing is always coming from the person itself.
Totally. I love that. I love the way that you speak. It's yeah, it's quite, I don't even know what the word is. I want to say inspiring, but I think it's just elegant, and it's well thought out. So I love that. And do you find that a lot of people come to you just in terms of wanting to connect with you as a person, and then they turn into clients, or are people actively seeking you out for in-person classes or virtual sessions? Like, what is your setup at the moment, and where are you actually living? I don't even know where you are.
So yeah, that's an interesting question. I think it's very mixed. So I live in Germany at the moment, and still for a couple of more months, and then I feel like, need to keep moving again. But let's see. I mean, it's tricky times for that.
Yeah.
So I teach. I do a few different things. I teach awakened belly dance, online. Yes, and that is very much where a lot of people get drawn into working with me. And I think they see me doing or embodying a certain thing, and then they feel drawn to work with me. I think that's the usual way of people connecting to me. I don't do a lot of advertisement at the moment. Actually, my website isn't even online. My Instagram isn't even online. So people find me usually through recommendations, or they saw me somewhere and then they feel really drawn and say, like, okay, I want to work with you. That is usually the way to go and to connect with me. Yeah, very much on a personal level. I don't really like to separate it so much, because I know that my own very personal story made me to the healer, teacher, whatever you want to call it, way shower that I am. So my work is deeply personal. my professionality is absolutely personal, and I don't want to exclude one from another, really.
It's being the person on the mat as well as off the mat, right? Like in the psychologist room and out of the psychologist room. And I guess that's probably, a part of leaving there, as well as that it felt very disparate. Like when you were in the office, it felt like, oh, I'm Katharina with the glasses on. And now when I leave, it's like, oh, it's such a relief. It's the Katharina that I get to be. Whereas we can actually be that person at all times in all things. And it doesn't have to be all flowing, because we have to adapt to the circumstance and the situation, but it doesn't mean that we lose that inner soul part of it, us, that we were talking about before, in terms of really knowing who you are deeply. And like you said, knowing for you that publicly and privately is very much a part of your personal practice. So it's it's knowing what your boundaries are in terms of what you share, and how you interact with people, in terms of like your students or your family, and what time you give to them versus the time that you give to yourself. And as when you're working with other people, I think it's extremely important to have enough time with yourself, even though it's tempting to want to be always learning and always wanting to be busy, right?
Yes. Yeah, but for me, it's like I could really sense this shift in clients coming to me and wanting to work with me once I truly embodied my teachings, right? When you walk your talk, it's such a game changer, and when you really embody what it's all about. So, for example, the first 2 days of my period, I'm offline. I'm not available. I cancel meetings. And even when I was still in corporate work, I would tell people, I mean, I work with women, so talking about menstruation was something they understood.
Yeah.
I told my clients, I'm on my blade right now. I'm gonna approach this differently. I'm still showing up, but in a different way, and still being connected to that inner winter in me, saying like, let things die, rest, lean back, not be so engaged with the outside world. And whenever possible, I would cancel and reschedule.
I love
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think a lot of women can take that on board. It's just a mini little teaching within here too, of we understand that people are busy, and that you've got families, you've got work, that sometimes it's not always appropriate to cancel work. But like Katharina said, it's adapting it, it's acknowledging it, it's telling your partner like, hey, this is where I'm at my winter, and explaining that in a way that they understand the language. But to go, I don't really feel like catching up with people, I don't want to be on my phone. So just getting that help to be supported and loved during that time, because that's something that we were both saying in both of our stories, is like this feeling of not enough. And when you don't feel that, you don't feel like you can use your voice, and when you don't use your voice, all of these things start to manifest in the body. And that's when we start to get pain, not just period pain, but headaches, tension, you hold extra weight. Like it's a myriad of health problems when we're not able to express ourselves, really.
Yes. Yeah, so much. And I think one beautiful way to also engage with it very low key is, I think most women I know experience this crazy day of this urge to clean up the whole house. And then you're like, what? And you're in the middle doing and cleaning. And then the next day you start bleeding, right? And then you're like, okay, so this is why I did it.
Yes.
And when you tap into that energy, it's like, and you can really use that to not only clean your house, but prepare meals in advance so you don't have to cook, right? Get as much things done before your bleed so you can rest because you prepared well. And it's like this energy, it's really simple, right? It doesn't have to be big things. You don't have to call in sick.
Yeah.
But you can just accommodate your needs as much as possible. And if you're able to tap into that energy, you will see it's a built-in system, right? Your body knows what's going to happen. And it prepares you and pushes you to be like all kind of mad, crazy cleaning lady.
It's probably like pregnant women as well.
Yeah.
Like I'm sure that they get to that stage at the last part of their third trimester, and it's like, I just have to get things prepared. And in a way, like with that buildup of the lining in our uterus, it's like it's this build up before it's like, and I'm gonna be useless. Like, do you know what I mean? And it's like we can allow ourselves then to go, oh, I can rest because I've put in all of this work. But if we have people around us that can really support and nurture us in that time as well, I think it actually helps that letting go process so much easier, because it helps you let go of guilt. And guilt is such a big one, especially in this like go, go, go. Oh, I should be doing something. I should check this, or I should be blah, blah, blah. It's like, what if you didn't? Like, how much worse would your situation get if you just didn't?
Yeah, that's such a good question. And also at work, for example, what's like really the worst thing that would happen if you just did it 2 days later?
Yeah.
Really? Would your company go bankrupt? Probably not. Would somebody die? Usually not, right?
Right.
My teacher would always say, it's not a surgery on an open heart, right? So calm down. It's not life-threatening. I
Yeah.
really like that.
I
Yeah.
love that too. Is there a recommended resource that you would give our listeners or viewers in terms of like a favorite book or podcast that you find yourself really enjoying, like whether it's work related for you or whether it's just in another area of interest?
So when it comes to cycle awareness and womb reconnection, there are 2 books I really enjoyed. One is called Red Moon by Miranda Gray. And this is more like a mythical approach to cycle awareness, and very much about storytelling. And yeah, it has a very fairy kind of way to it. So it's not for everyone, but I think for those who is it for, they will love it. So maybe give it a try.
Yeah.
And then for those who are more maybe down to earth, maybe sounds a bit weird, but more like a practical approach, then Wild Power is a very beautiful book to
Who's
read.
that by?
By Alexandra Pope.
Oh, got that down.
Yeah, so those are 2 books I really enjoy. But apart from, because feeding the mind is one thing, but really connecting to your physical or also your energetical womb space, if you perhaps had a hysterectomy, or if you're a trans woman, or if you don't have that physical womb space, or not anymore, but still connecting to that space is like a game changer. And I have some really nice meditations on Insight Timer. It's a free meditation app, but not just me. There are a lot of womb connecting meditations, right? Because the very first thing is to connect to our womb again, to say like, hi, I'm here. I'm going to listen to you. What do you have to tell me? Your womb is so incredibly wise
Yeah.
But we have to listen and we have to ask questions, right? And we have to engage with it. Like everything we need to, or we want to heal or connect to or use, we have to establish a relationship. And we're very much taught to ignore our womb space, right?
Definitely.
So this reconnection journey, may it be through womb massage or womb yoga or belly dance, is something I personally absolutely loved or love. Or massage or tapping or humming, you know, like there's so many ways to engage with your womb space, and all of them I think are so beautiful if you can just experiment what works for you.
Yes. Like, yes, a million times. And you answered all of my questions in what you just said there, because I was going to say, like, bringing in belly dancing at different times of the month, you know, might feel really good in terms of like moving your body, but I'm sure it's quite physical and demanding. But then there's, you know, the tapping of the belly and that, or the humming, and that just brings you to another level of like really feeling into that internal and intuitive space of like, hey, this is, you know, this is a part of my body. And I think a lot of that stuff as well, it can feel a little bit strange to you if you haven't done it before, because when you're disconnected, not just from your womb, but from things in general, it feels weird to have that first connection. And there's a process too of clearing out the toxins. So, you know, if you're not eating well or you haven't previously had a good relationship with your body, there's a whole heap of like toxins within that, you know, is providing a barrier between you wanting to connect and you actually connecting. So I think um like Katharina said, it's not doing these drastic changes like, oh, I've got to do it all or I won't do it at all. And it's like, just try one thing. If that doesn't feel right, try another thing, try doing maybe a different thing on every day of the month and see what happens. And, you know, see what you really resonate with. And I think that's always a really good start if you're really new to this stuff. Like, give yourself variety. It's a bit like going to university or doing school where you get to choose electives. You're like, I'm not quite sure, but this one sounds fun for now. And then you'll figure out what you need versus probably what you want to begin with, right?
Yes, yes. And also not to forget, it can feel overwhelming. So like, how do I connect to my womb? And especially for women, and there are so many women out there who have experienced womb-related trauma.
Yeah.
Right. So this is something to be very aware of and to be careful. So I always recommend, if you don't want to work with a practitioner, and that's totally fine, and you want to do it by yourself, do something that is not scary, where you still feel safe within yourself. So start with 5 minutes and don't go all crazy. And it's not crazy, but don't go extreme, right? And say like, oh, I'm going to do yoni eggs and yoni steams and all these kind of advanced techniques. But why don't you just start laying down, put your hands on your womb and breathe for 5 minutes?
Yeah.
It doesn't have to look fancy. It doesn't have to be an elaborate ritual.
Yeah.
It has to be right for you and not causing more stress or more drama or more trauma, and not like another thing on your to-do list. Oh my God, now I have to connect to my womb as well.
Yeah.
Add it to my 40 points list. It's like, no, that's not the way.
Yes. I love that. Have you heard of belly wrapping? Like, in terms of, yeah, and I kind of sit in this pool of wanting to just implement it for women, regardless of having a kid or not, because the sensation of having something wrapping your belly, or like you said, just putting your hand on it, and having this very gentle pressure. It's like this container of something sacred, and being able to really hold that is yeah, it's just really special. Like I recommend to any woman listening to this or watching this, to just do that, whether it's just when you wake up, whether you have a free moment in the day. Even like me standing here now, I've got one hand on my heart and one on my belly, and it just feels very safe and loving. And there's just something when we put our actual hand, so our hand as well represents our heart. When we put that on our own skin or body, it's like we just make so many beautiful connections. And yeah, it's just I just love all of this kind of stuff. I could talk forever about it.
Me too.
Oh, girl, where can people best get in contact with you before we wrap this up? Because I know that you said you were doing the Awaken belly dancing online, which I know a lot of people will be interested in, like I am. I want to know where I can access that. I'll include this in the show notes too, but I'll get you to just speak to the best spot for contact.
Yeah, so at the moment, the best thing to get in contact with me is through Instagram. I guess we will link it down below, but my name is Katinka, and then how do I say it? Like underscore. Yes, thank you for picking up my thought. And then Moonchild, or Katharina Löwer on Facebook, and just drop me a message. That's easiest at the moment, as yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Do you have any final things that you want our listeners or viewers to take away as a piece of wisdom or action or anything? Because I'm just so deeply touched by everything that you've shared, and I know that we'll be sharing more stories along the way, which is super exciting.
Yeah, I'm just so grateful for everyone listening here, and just know that you are loved and you're held, and there's all the support in the world out there. And yeah, if you listen to this, there's probably something that called you, right? So just follow that spark. This is what I really would like to encourage people. Follow the spark that led you to this episode, and just see where it takes you, with curiosity and pleasure and fun, and not so much seriousness, perhaps. Or if you want to be serious about it, that's fine as well. You know, sometimes we need that too. But if we can ease into what sparked us, I feel like this is always a good place to go, about healing or expansion or whatever we want to achieve.
Being curious, I like that. It's a beautiful quality. Thank you so much for your time, your energy, and your wisdom and your grace on this episode. I've just so much enjoyed engaging with you, not just talking, but actually being able to see your face as well, which is something that I really value in these episodes. They're not all just recordings via a phone call. It's like I actually get to see you. I get to see the space that you're in, and put a face to a name, and a name to a story. And so yeah, again, I'm super grateful that you accepted this. It seems now, after we're talking, that it was probably very random to have actually gotten a response from you, let alone getting in contact with you. So
yeah,
another to be kind of moment.
I love these synchronicities. They always lead you down the best path, right? I feel like, oh yeah,
It's the best.
so glad.
Yeah.
Thank you so much
for
talking to me.
Awesome. Yeah. And so like with all of these episodes, we'll get Katharina back on at some point if she's willing to do that, to share where she's at in months to come or years to come, whenever the time is that the synchronistic flow aligns. So I really, really look forward to that day. And yeah, who knows what travel will do these days. I could be doing a podcast with her in person wherever she's traveling to.
Yes, please.